Hi friends, I'm Lacey Picazo, and I'm here to tell you about my brain. My brain, it's amazing. It's creating thousands of thoughts every single day. It's capturing memories, it's cataloging ideas, and it does so fast, so rapidly, that most of the time, I don't even know what I'm thinking. That is, until I start to feel it. Sometimes I feel it here. Sometimes I feel it here. And then I definitely feel it here. While my brain is amazing, it has this tendency of recalling memories, replaying stories that don't always feel so good. Let me tell you some that have been replaying on my mind recently. So it was a beautiful spring day. I took my 3 girls and a friend to a park. It's beautiful outside, the sort of day you just have to be there. But while my kids are creating their own imaginary games and I'm chatting away with my friend, we see this woman with her dog. Now, this dog is overzealous, and thank goodness it's leashed, because it is pulling this woman across the playground. My friend leans over and she says, "Lacey, that's not a dog to have near a playground." And I have to agree, so I'm kind of keeping my eye on this fella. At the same time, I see out of the corner of my eye, my youngest go sprinting across the grass, and I instantly tense, because this kid loves dogs, loves them. And I have told her 1,000 times, do not touch strange dogs. Do not approach people you don't know. Please, please don't. But I don't know what's going to happen. And so I almost see it in slow motion. The dog notices my kid. And my kid skids to a stop just as the dog's hackles are raising, and the woman yanks her pup to the side. My child turns around a little disappointed and starts to run back to the playground. Now, this woman looks irate. She's scolding my kid or a dog, I'm not really sure, but I want to breathe a sigh of relief. But as I do so, my friend leans in again and she goes, "Lacey, did you see what just happened? Your kid almost got bitten. What were you doing? You got to talk to her about this. This could have been so bad." So of course I have this replaying in my mind, but later that week I go into work. This is my happy place. This is where I feel confident. This is where I feel ready. And I'm prepared with my teammates to go present to a group of stakeholders. And this group is really important to us, but I know we're going to crush it. I've got my trusty Sharpies, sticky notes in hand. The room is all set, and we go off with tons of energy. But about 10 minutes in, I notice something. I notice that these people, they're maybe multitasking a little bit. I see somebody doodling in a notebook. I see another person maybe writing an email, and some of that gusto starts to deflate a little bit. But now we're at the big reveal, the moment we've been waiting for. We're going to share all of our ideas, and they're going to be so excited. But that main stakeholder we're trying to win over gets a little prickly, doesn't really want to be challenged, doesn't love all of our ideas. And so I'm not feeling so great about how this meeting went. So those folks have left, and I'm packing up the room with my teammate, trying to reset our energy. But she tells me, she goes, "Lacey, that didn't go quite as I expected, right? Like either they were not that interested in our ideas, or maybe they don't trust us. Maybe you weren't prepared enough. What are we going to do about this? I don't think this is going to go well." I feel more shame. I feel more uncertainty. I start to doubt my abilities. By the end of the week, I am just so ready to drop all of my responsibilities at the door. I get the sitter and check. I go out with my favorite person, with my partner for dinner. We have date night at our favorite restaurant. I don't even need to look at the menu. I am just so ready to bond and to let some of this bad energy go. And so we start chit-chatting, but I notice after a few minutes, somebody else joins the party. There's a lot of clicking, a lot of scrolling, maybe some texting, and I'm only getting the occasional nod, maybe a grunt here or there. And I feel my body getting frustrated, but let's be honest, who has not felt at one point or another like their partner was actually married to their phone and not them? Like, I'm right here, I'm the one, see me. And so I get more animated, I get a little bit bigger, and for a while we're really connecting, we're bonding again, things are going great. But after a while, the other woman slides out from under the table again, right, taking full attention. And I'll be honest, I'm not always my best self in those moments. I start to get a little irritable, start to get a little cranky, a little snippy. And so after showing up that way, finally, my partner goes, Lacey, you don't get it. This is really important right now. I have to tend to this. And if you're gonna be so needy, I can't be here. Should we end our date now? Youch! I feel instant warring emotions in my body. Do I get angry? Do I flare up like a peacock? No, that's not what I did. I got small. I felt insignificant. I felt uncertain. So while my brain might be amazing, it has this terrible tendency to replay some of the worst events over and over, and these are still in my mind long after the fact. But what if I told you the voices from my friend, from my coworker, from my partner, those were not their words. Those words were mine, only mine. So before you're sitting there thinking, Lacey, you gotta start spending time with people who are a lot nicer to you. These folks sound terrible. Let's be honest, you all thought it. The only person who could be that cruel, who could be that rude, who could be that judgmental to me, it's me, right? And I see some nods, and I'm wondering if some of you are feeling this too, because a lot of us experience this mental chatter, this sort of head trash. And it makes sense because as people, we are pattern-making machines. We are always looking for the data of what's happening around us, trying to connect the dots to make sense of our world. We take in what happens, what we experience, and what we know. But even if there's incomplete data, it doesn't stop us from inventing the plot, right? Everything we believe is colored by our own bias, by our own ego, and our own perception of the world. Now, these thoughts aren't really the problem, it's what we do with them. When we have these negative thoughts, they can trigger bigger feelings in our body. And as you've seen, those feelings are not always so positive. These feelings can trigger rumination, spiraling. I know I, for one, have been up many times at night, almost having an argument with myself in my own head about what happened that day. And it is not productive, and it's not real. And I think that's the real challenge, because these stories we tell ourselves, if they're left unchecked, they turn into something bigger. They turn into our own fears, our insecurities, our self-judgment. But these feelings don't equal truth. And I have to tell you, I think we give them too much weight. I know this because I see this in work as well as at home. Mental chatter doesn't only show up in our free time, it shows up in every moment of our lives. And so from my history in a job where literally my job is to be decoding behavior, helping people understand why things are happening. Because my career came up through UX. That's user experience, which in like normal people words means we try to understand people, their motivations, what's in their hearts and minds, why they do what they do, so that we can build software and technology that actually meet their goals. And so from that experience, we've been working with wonderful clients in healthcare and technology, and these folks also care about those they serve. They care about their patients, about their providers, about their customers. They want to know, what do these people think? What do they care about? What's motivating and influencing their behavior? Ah, that last one, right? There's an extra motivation. If we understand why people behave the way that they do, perhaps we can influence it. We can move those people, and we can move metrics. Speaking of metrics, these clients, they are inundated with data. How we are drowning in our own thoughts and our own feelings, they are drowning in more and more and more information. And when they start to feel uncertain, they say, well, let's get another data point. Maybe if we knew this, then we can make the call. But more data does not always equal more truth, because it can be colored by tons of bias. Now, I'm a data person myself, so it hurts me a little bit to say that, but more data does not always equal understanding. The challenge is when you have more information, oftentimes you can start to think, oh, I know this for sure. I am so confident in what I believe because it's right here. Maybe I've been in this industry for 30 years, so I know, Lacey, this is the way to do it. But the challenge, just like our thoughts drive our feelings, this data point helps make us certain this must be true. Now, the challenge with this is when you have this information, ultimately you choose to act, which makes sense because, of course, we're in a society where ideas and action, that's what we want. That is what is rewarded, right? But what if you are taking action on something that is not the right thing? You're sprinting towards a dead end. You're resourcing the wrong problem to fix. And I see it happen all the time. You're taking a big bet based on information you don't actually have. Because as we said, our brain is going to fill in all of the holes. So what comes from this? When we treat data and information, when we treat our thoughts like truth, maybe you charge ahead as fast as possible. I'm going to build that thing the CEO told me to. I don't even care if there's risks and traps ahead. That's what I'm going to do. Or conversely, maybe you get small. Maybe you say, I'm not ready yet. I'm not going to raise my hand. In either case, you're working from the wrong information. Now, let me share an example of what this looks like in my world in healthcare, thinking about how we apply behavior design. So recently, my team was working with a company that creates software for the wonderful folks in oncology and cancer care. These are the folks who are actually completing surgeries, removing tumors, sending these tumors to a pathology lab to be analyzed to see what is the future course of this patient's life-saving care. I think we can all agree this is a pretty important job, and our lives have likely all been touched by these folks. So my team's creating new software to assist these folks in their workflow, make it easier for them. Well, imagine this was your job, and imagine you had to decide what part of this person's role should be automated. Where does AI belong, and where doesn't it? Now, this is a common question right now that we get from all sorts of people, and I will say there's a lot of conflict on this topic, right? What is the right path forward? And it makes sense. You might have a leadership team who's feeling some FOMO, who feels like automation is the way, let's do it everywhere, it's competitive advantage. That's the answer. Maybe you have an internal team who's tasked with executing this, who is not so certain. Maybe they have competing priorities. Maybe they have a little trepidation. In either case, it makes perfect sense because all of our points of view are colored by our own bias, by what we see in the world. But many times, both sides are right. And many times, both sides are missing part of the information. So what we saw in working in this oncology space, we started talking to these pathologists, talking to these surgeons, understanding all of their different workflows, the steps that were required for them to be successful in their jobs. And what we found were there were moments that identity, that trust really shaped how they chose to behave. And for my team, our goal was to really figure out how do those people become successful? How do we build the right thing for them? Not just where AI belongs or where it doesn't, but you have to get to objective answers because we wanted our clients to build the right thing, not necessarily to be right. And so through this, we're able to create a very objective product strategy. This is a thing you will build, therefore, these clinicians will actually adopt, actually use this long term. And I have to tell you, these clinicians, they show up just like I do. Their brains are very similar. They also have a tiny voice that's shaping their decision making, telling them when they're feeling frustrated, when they're feeling skeptical, when they're feeling uncertain. And those feelings shape how they interact. It shapes when they say, I am not going to use that anymore, back to pen and paper for me. And it happens all the time. So many products fail from tiny human factors happening in people's brains that we don't even know are there. So this is the way that we can build technology people trust. So now that I've exposed you to this concept of mental chatter, as if you didn't already know what was going on, what do you do with it? How do you start to question your own stories? The answer is much of the same. I want you to shed light on what's going on in your head. I actually don't want you to ignore it. By able to dig in further, you start to become more aware of the role it plays and how you act and how you show up. From my history building a career in UX, I have learned that I should never be that certain about anything, right? I should go in without thinking, oh, I know why those people do what they do. Heck, sometimes I don't know why I do what I do, right? Like what is spinning in my body that's making me feel and show up this way? So go in prepared to investigate, be prepared to dig. The point is to become an observer, and that takes slowing down. And I know I'm asking a lot from you all because that's very hard sometimes. But if you start to slow down, you can start to practice paying attention to your body. And through that, you can tell, oh, I am not feeling so good. What did they say? What story might I be telling myself? And is that real, or is that something in my head? And over time, the more you do this, the more you become aware of your own stories and can release some of those that are not serving you. Again, the goal is for you to be very acutely aware of what's going on in your body. It is not to dampen your emotions. It is not to stop thinking. I've tried. It's not possible. This voice is on 24/7 narrating my life. But over time, again, you will be able to stop yourself and recognize this signal is not actually a story that you care about. So, while our brains are truly amazing, I am hoping that you are going to be able to start to quiet the volume on yours, that you can challenge some of your own stories, so that you don't believe everything you think. Because, after all, the stories that we believe, they shape all the results we get. Thank you very much.